Hey guys, Silverlord here, back again with another action figure review of quite possibly one of the coolest action figures that was just too darn late to crack my top action figures of 2023 video that I'm currently working on, quote unquote, working on. And that of course is going to be none other than the Thundercats Ultimates Mongor. Brought to us by the fine folks over at Super7. Now, say what you will about Super7, but they're making a lot of stuff that a lot of people are too snowflake to even touch. Like Mongor here, very satanic looking character. The Baphomet from Show No Mercy by Slayer, very satanic looking character. Some of the worst figures were pretty dark. The King Diamond stuff, you know. Hopefully we'll get an ultimate of the Ronnie James Dio mascot known as Murray. That's another demonic character. But Super7's going in directions that not a lot of people are even willing to dip their toes in. So I gotta commend him for that, because this figure is freaking sick. I love this figure. Had he come out a month earlier, he would have easily made my top whatever figures of 2023. That said, he's going to be a contender for 2024. The question is he going to be able to hold up over time? Only time will tell, of course, but I think he's got a pretty good chance. You guys know me well enough by now. You know I love me some demonic-looking action figures, and this guy is no exception. I mean, the past few years, we've seen an uprise in those. We've gotten the new Spawn line from McFarlane Toys. We've gotten Sabak in the DC Multiverse line from McFarlane Toys, as well as Etrigan, and maybe some other demonic-looking characters in that. Hasbro failed miserably trying to deliver us a Mephisto, but I'm not going to get into that here. I never made a video about the Engine of Greed, so I'm not going to start. But Super7, as I mentioned, has been giving us some darker characters for a few years now, so I'm all for it. You know, we need a little bit of darkness to snuff out all the light. You know, sometimes, not all the time. That got dark, I guess, but whatever. That said, cutting right into the meat and taters of this review and taking a look-see at Mongor's accessories. He does come with a few. He's kind of light, but he is pretty big. So we'll take a closer look at that during size comparisons. He comes with a pair of open hands. Some claws there. Speaking of which, I could probably spare to trim my claws. Huh? That said, he does come with a single fist hand. Kind of unfortunate. I would have liked two of those. But we do get the pointy finger hand, or as I like to call it, the booger picking hand. Which could, I guess, double as a grip hand if you heat it up. There you go. That said, we also get this alternate screaming bloody gore head. That'd be cool. Some death figures. The band Death, not just a Grim Reaper. Four Horsemen's giving us that. Which, speaking of which, Four Horsemen giving us lots of demon stuff too. Especially in that, was it Aerithir wave? I looked at a few years ago. Really like what they're doing as well, but did they sculpt this, by the way? They sculpted a lot of the Thundercats figures, but I don't know if they sculpted this guy. If they did, then, you know, kudos to them as always. But got this awesome screaming head. This thing looks like a freaking Baphomet. I don't know where I'm going to put this head. This thing's going to fill up a bag on its own, but it's a cool head sculpt nonetheless. Right down to the blank expression on the eyes. That said, we do get a couple of flame effects here, which are a little tricky to use, I'm not going to lie. But if you get them just right, they are nice and snug, and they do fit better on this head than they do the open mouth head, but I did manage to get them to work on that as well. That said, Mongor does also come with, last but not least that is, his weapon of choice, big gnarly looking sickle, or scythe, whatever you want to call it, with a removable flame effect. You just pop it right off the top there. It's a soft plastic. It's not going to warp on you, but it's not going to break if it falls on the ground, so that's good. But he's got his big gnarly sickle. It's about as tall as he is. So Thundercats, watch out, or the mighty Mongor here is going to mow you down. And he's cutting the grass short today, mother trucker. So, yeah, what can I say? I love this figure. This thing is awesome. So, let's take a closer look at the man of the hour, the mighty Mongor here. And you can see that amazing head sculpt. Looks great. Paint's clean. Lots of fur texture throughout. He's not light, but he's not like super heavy. I think the Mumra's a little heavier than this guy. And his joints, while not loose, they are in some aspects butter smooth, but they're also detented, so they're not like floppy or anything. Like, shake this guy around. He's not flopping about, but his joints weren't stiff out of package. I didn't have to heat anything like the Cliff Burton and Lemmy Kilmister I looked at yesterday. Speaking of heavy metal action figures. But Mongor here, as far as his articulation goes, he does have a double ball peg in the head, which would probably get better range if his mane was softer plastic. That's about my only gripe with this figure. You can hear that. His mane feels like it's made out of like POM or ABS or something. It's actually PVC. It's just really friggin' hard. That's what she said. So you're not going to get a ton out of that. He does get some rotation out of that, though. And he does get a little bit of tilt. But as far as forward and back goes, yeah, you're not going to get a ton out of that. So that kind of sucks, but that's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. So I can forgive that. Shoulders go out to the side about 90 degrees. Which, I don't think mine moved out that far, but I did just heat this guy up to pop the open mouth head off because, of course, I use that for the URL. That's what you do, right? That said, they do rotate forward and back. He does have a bicep swivel, which is nice and tight, but not sturdy. It's sturdy. That's what I'm getting at with that. He does have a swivel in the elbow as well. And a hinge. Nice and tight there. Wrists are nice and tight on this guy, unlike the Mumra who had a little bit of looseness. This guy has nice tight wrists. They snap in, they hinge. Unfortunately, not the right hinge for holding weapons, but I can let that slide because he holds his scythe well with two hands. Ab crunch goes about that far back. Not very far. It can't go forward, though. Obviously, without his head attached, you'll get a little bit more out of that, but it pretty much just straightens out. Maybe a little bit forward, but that's your lot with that. He does have a waist twist. He's got like a diaper thing going on, but it's like all like fur that comes up and around here, and it looks pretty decent. And look at this. He's not the bulkiest character. I would say maybe he could have been a little bit broader, but I don't think he's not built like me, you know. I have no freaking wrist to speak of. But look at the V shape he's got going on. Look at the musculature. He is built like a friggin' truck, man. He could knock the snot out of you if you get on his bad side. So yeah, freaking great sculpt on this dude. Even though he's not the bulkiest guy ever. The Mumra, ever-living Mumra, I think is a little bulkier than he is. But as far as his hips go, they do rotate forward and back. They seem to go back more than they do forward. But you get enough forward. That's fine. They do go out. Probably get the splits out of him if it weren't for the fur piece, but what are you going to do? He does have a thigh cut that works well. He's got a single knee. Again, not the tightest thing on that knee on either side for mine. I guess that one's alright, but this one's a little bit loose. But it's not floppy, so I can forgive that. He does have a calf cut that works pretty well. And then he has a rocker with a hinge in the foot. He's got these big clawed chicken feet here, so he can stand right up, no problem. He sinks his feet right into the review set. He ain't going anywhere. So, the devil of the Thundercats universe is a freaking definite win for me. I would say the only major issue with this guy, other than maybe some of that joint looseness, because I haven't messed with every figure, I've only messed with mine, and mine is fine. Totally okay with mine. It's got its loose points, but it is stable as all heck, even with like the scythe with the effects and whatnot. But this figure is definitely going to be one of my tops for 2024. If, you know, the unthinkable doesn't happen, you know, we get a freaking Ultimate Murray from Dio. That could be the thing to knock him off the top spot. Or, you know, a variant that comes with more stuff. I don't know, but this figure's awesome. I think it's the best figure in the wave. You need to pick it up. That's my story, and I'll stick it to it. Even though this isn't final thoughts, I'm just going to tell you right now, you need to have this thing. If you're at all into metal, demonic characters, or just, you know, spooky looking, scary looking stuff, this guy has it in spades, man. And I couldn't be happier with him. So, with that being said, it's time to stop ranting and raving about the obvious here and take a look at some size comparisons. First up, here is good old Mongor alongside a couple other Thundercats Ultimates figures brought to us by the fine folks over at Super7. We got Lino for something a little bit more basic, and then as far as my collection goes, we have the ever-living Mumra for something a little bit more grandiose and larger scale. And as you can see, Mongor and Mumra are about neck and neck if we don't count the horns or, what are those, accoutrements on Mumra's helmet there. They're about the same height, which is surprising to me because I actually thought Mumra was a little bigger, but no, they're about even Steven here. That said, getting these two out of here, there is no need to worry about my poor Lino. He is not an amputee. I'm just a moron and can't find his left hand there. So getting this Mumra out of the way. I still love this Mumra figure. Despite his shortcomings, he is still an awesome figure. Made my top action figures of the year for whatever year he came out. That said, this of course would not be one of my reviews that bringing in the Mythic Legion's Brother Mandibilith. Although in this case, I guess the mighty Balfagor would have made a little bit more sense because he is a cloven-hoofed demonic fellow. But Mandibulus is what we got. And I'm a man of consistency, so bringing him in every video, I'm just going to have to suck it up and deal with that, Chuck. That said, we also have the infamous 11 Spawn, who's used to kicking the snot out of demons, but is also used to towering over everyone, which is not the case here. Mongor is significantly bigger than good old Al Simmons, so before this gets ugly, why don't we cut this off here and wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and I think it should be blatantly obvious at this point, that if good old Mongor here came out just a tiny bit earlier in the calendar year 2023, he would have been a contender for my top action figures of said calendar year just previously mentioned. That said, there's no doubt in my mind that come the end of the current calendar year 2024, those of you watching this in the future, that good old Mongor here will be a contender for this year's top action figures of the year video, because this thing, let me tell you what, even if you aren't the biggest Thundercats fan, if you're just a fan of demonic characters, heavy metal, or just evil looking stuff, Mongor has that in spades. He looks killer as all get out, and I couldn't be happier with this figure. I almost like this guy more than the ever-living Mumra, and he actually did make the top figures of whatever calendar year that video was for. I want to say 2022, but I could be mistaken. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.